Coming up on Network Africa, reactions trail U.S. President Donald Trump's new travel ban as some African countries announce suspension of all visas for U.S. citizens. Muslims worldwide celebrate Eid-El-Adha. Here in Nigeria, citizens complain about the hike in ram prices. Plus, Ghana's former finance minister Ken Ofori-Atta is placed on Interpol's red notice list after being declared a wanted person. Welcome, everyone. I'm Joke Rogers here in Lagos. African countries have started reacting to a recent travel ban and visa restrictions announced by U.S. President Donald Trump. Continental body, the African Union, is leading criticism, describing the move as discriminatory and calling for the United States to adopt a more respectful and consultative approach. The executive order signed earlier this week by the U.S. president blocks nearly all travel to the U.S. from 12 countries. Among them are 7 African nations: Chad, the Republic of Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Libya, Sudan, and Somalia. Framed as part of a broader national security policy, the expanded restrictions have drawn global criticism for their perceived lack of fairness, transparency, and disproportionate impacts on African and developing nations. Apart from the African Union, Somalis in Kenya have been expressing their disappointment with the announcement. Somalia is among 7 African countries whose nationals are prohibited from traveling to the U.S. effective Monday, June 9. Somalia was quick to react to the travel ban, immediately pledging to work with the U.S. to address any security issues. In a statement, Somali ambassador to the United States, Dahir Hassan Abdi, said his country values its long-standing relationship with America. It's not the first time the U.S. has announced the visa restrictions for Somalia. Last August, the U.S. announced visa restrictions against current and former Somali officials and others accused of undermining the democratic process in Somalia from traveling to the United States. A statement from the U.S. State Department said Somalia's national and federal state leaders must follow through on their commitments to complete the parliamentary process in a credible and transparent manner by February 2025. At this time, however, the Trump administration says the ban and restrictions are to protect U.S. citizens. In the meantime, Chad's President Mohamed Deby has responded to the travel ban announced by the Trump administration with a suspension of all visas to U.S. citizens. Responding on Facebook, President Idris Deby said that Chad has neither planes to offer nor billions of dollars to give, but that Chad has its dignity and pride to protect. The country's Foreign Minister Abdullahi Fadul says his government was surprised by the announcement from the U.S. and even more by the terrorism-related reason, which completely disregards Chad's commitment and results in this area. Let's get more on this, and we're being joined on the program by International Affairs Analyst Chukwemeka Eze. Thanks for joining us on the program today.
Thank you, Joke. What do they call it?
Eid-El-Adha.
Okay.
Happy celebration.
Thank you very much.
Well, so, since taking office, even before, he came into power, President Trump has made several promises, and which he's, now following through on. And, one of the latest is this travel ban on some African countries. The AU has responded. Some of the countries involved, Chad especially, has also responded, issuing restrictions of its own on all visas for U.S. citizens. It's a grave action by the U.S. government has taken. I suppose the African countries would think that the President Trump was saying that these countries are exporting terrorists. What do you make of, the latest ban and the restrictions?
I think some people are becoming emotional because 12 countries were mentioned, some of which we are not African countries like Haiti.
Yeah, there are about
Iran,
seven African countries, I think.
Yes, Iran is there, Libya is there. And Yemen is not an African country. So that some African countries have been affected. I mean, it's not something we should narrow down to say African countries have been banned. That's one. Two, when he came around in his first tenure, he banned some countries. African countries were not included at that time. I mean, Trump, number one. Now, Trump, number two, has included some African countries, and we are crying wolf. So I think we should look at the deeper issues. Remember that this executive order was signed on January 20, 2025. Executive order number 14161. This not just with terrorist activities, but national security and public safety concerns. And they raised the issue of vetting and screening. The countries that don't have sufficient verifiable vetting and screening measures to ensure that their countrymen and women, have the relevant data they could give the Secretary of State. Remember, this is a product of a research or something done by the Secretary of State in consultation with the Secretary of Homeland Security, National Intelligence Agency, and the CIA. So there are facts, and they took it one by one to analyze. So it is not a product of emotion. So it is for each African country to go through that document and find out where it has erred instead of emotionalizing the whole thing to say African countries, African countries. And there are 7 that are partially banned. And they gave reasons. So a total of 19 have been affected. And if 7 African countries have been affected, it shouldn't, we shouldn't be surprised because African countries are not perfect in all this.
Right, and as far as we know, only Chad has announced, responded, saying that it's
Somalia too has responded,
right,
but
so,
on a positive note.
Right. I'm even talking about restrictions for U.S. visas for U.S. citizens coming into Chad. Do you think it's something that these other countries should consider? Going by your response, I'm not sure you think so.
Let me tell you, if you ask the average American, he doesn't know where Chad is located.
Yeah.
He does not know. In fact, some Americans think that the whole of Africa is one country, and the others are just provinces. Some of them are so, except for those that are in this sector of foreign relations. And in any case, what Chad has done is not out of the ordinary, because under the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations of 1961, which is a codification of the customary international law, reciprocity in foreign relations is a normal thing. So the fact that they have, but it will have any serious, except if U.S. companies are mining precious metals in Chad, then those ones can be given special consideration. But I don't see many Americans having business with a desert arid region like Chad.
Yes.
They don't have business, most of them don't have business.
What's in this day and age that we're talking about, it's nobody lives in isolation. Of course, U.S. is considered as, the most powerful country in the world, one of the most powerful countries. So what does this do for countries' relations, with the United States?
Regarding the countries affected?
Yes.
No, basically, it will be traumatic for their nationals. I'll give you an instance. If you are from Chad, for instance, many Iranians belong to, they have properties, for those who have traveled to U.S. Some have properties in U.S. Assuming you are from Chad and you have a property in U.S., but you traveled outside U.S., and maybe your visa ran out, and you want to renew your visa. and this announcement has been made. And let's assume that property is on mortgage. You've lost the property. So it will affect students who have gotten admissions and waiting for visas to take up those, all the monies they've paid for visa interviews, all of them are gone. Yeah. So besides, in the international arena where debates are being made, if a country has banned your nationals, do you think it will be easy for you to lobby that country to support you in debates? How can Chad, if an issue arises at the Security Council and the country not affected by this executive order, lobbies the US, and Chad perhaps decides to lobby the, I mean, do you think, so it's going to affect this country? I just use Chad as
an example.
As an example. It's going to affect all of them one way or the other. It's going to affect them corporately. It's going to affect them by their nationals. It's going to affect them in their engagements in the international realm or international circuit. So it's going to have a deleterious effect. And if there are international organizations that they want employment, I mean, they are nationals, it will be difficult. And if US has banned nationals of a country, how do you think if you are seeking for a job at WHO, World Bank, IMF, the whole World Bank group, and many other international organizations, and you're on the black book of the UN, you think other international institutions will employ you? What if they decide to send you to US for an assignment and you are ineligible? So it's going to have wide-ranging effect.
Right, and the other countries in Africa not affected by the ban, you mentioned a while earlier that, you know, there's too much emotion going on, but do you think they should show some kind of solidarity with other African countries affected? Maybe this will extend to them if Trump sees that, you know.
No. It's not going to move. I think, see, this thing is verifiable and it's scientific in nature. Your vetting measures, they have found it problematic. Why not, perhaps you have a national identity card program and names cannot be easily verifiable there. Yeah. Or you don't engage in information sharing. Let me give you an example. Assuming US has indicted some of your nationals and they've sought for information and you go blank. And you begin to say, okay, we are ready to give up our citizens that you have indicted. Well, so we are ready to engage in information sharing, identity management, screening, and vetting protocols. We are ready. So, and you call the American embassy officials or send a letter to the Secretary of State to say, we are ready, come and verify it. They verify it because you heard Strom to say more names may even be added, and as well, more names can be removed. So by the time they are satisfied that you have done the needful, I mean, they will just remove the name of that country. But until that is done, it will be problematic.
Right. International Affairs Analyst Chukwuemeka Eze. A pleasure again having you on program.
Okay. Last time we were together, today we are together here.
Yeah. How do you know it? Thank you again. And still to come on the program. Mozambique, Malawi deepen relationship ties, signing bilateral agreements focusing on trade, energy, defense, and tourism. Welcome back. Former Zambian President Edgar Lungu has died. According to local media and his Patriotic Front Party, Mr. Lungu collapsed while exercising at home in Lusaka and was pronounced dead at the main Soko military hospital. The government has confirmed the news and declared a period of national mourning. The political party adds that he had been receiving specialized treatment in South Africa for an undisclosed illness. The former President Lungu led Zambia for 6 years from 2015 before losing the 2021 election to the current president, Hakainde Hichilema, by a large margin. As cholera cases rise across the continent, African leaders have pressed that the continent steps up production of its own vaccines. The call came during a virtual cholera conference of Africa's emergency high-level meeting for heads of states organized by the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Africa CDC. The World Health Organization claims this year Africa has reported 2/3 of all cases worldwide and 99% of cholera-related deaths. The WHO Director General Tedros Ghebreyesus urges African nations to optimize the use of existing supplies through earlier detection and more efficient vaccination campaigns. Mr. Ghebreyesus says cholera must also be addressed at its source, saying it's a symptom of deeper issues, systematic failures in water, sanitation, health services, governance, and equity. Of the 20 countries reporting outbreaks this year, the worst hit are Sudan, South Sudan, the Democratic Republic of Congo, and Angola. Muslims worldwide are celebrating Eid-el-Adha, also known as Eid-el-Kabir, a day after Muslim pilgrims converged on the Mount of Arafat in Saudi Arabia. Eid-el-Adha, also known as the Feast of Sacrifice, commemorates Prophet Ibrahim's willingness to sacrifice his son, Ishmael, as an act of obedience to God. Most Muslims will attend the special 2 Rak'ah prayers held at major mosques throughout the world. Muslims usually wear new clothes and some even exchange gifts. The Feast of Sacrifice originates from the historic event when Prophet Ibrahim was commanded by God in a dream vision to sacrifice his son Ishmael. While he was in the act of sacrificing his son, God sent the angel Gabriel with a huge ram. This event is a pivotal moment in Islamic history, demonstrating faith and submission. The holiday's origins are firmly rooted in the story of Ibrahim's devotion. Hey, Nigeria President Bola Tinubu is calling on Muslims to celebrate the Eid-el-Kabir with the vulnerable and pray for the peace of the country. The president made this comment after the Eid-el-Kabir prayer at Dodam Barracks, Ikoyi, Lagos. He says Nigerians must continue to pray for the troops who are on the battlefield fighting terrorism. The president also says it's important that citizens imbibe the culture of caring for one another and make sacrifices for the growth of the country.
As we make sacrifices, we should remember to pray and give to those who are very vulnerable. In the spirit of peace, must come together, be one another's brother's keeper, give your neighbors, love everyone equally. We must pray hard for our troops who are keeping us safe, making the sacrifices in the challenges that we face in terrorism and banditry today. We must pray for them specifically, and we must remember their sacrifices and continue to be of good behavior.
For many Lagosians, the presence of ram is symbolic to the celebration of Eid-el-Adha. But for many, the cost this year has been too high compared to last year. In the last few days, many have attempted getting their hands on the animal.
The popular Kara market along the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway was bustling with last-minute ram shopping on the morning of Eid-el-Kabir celebration, despite there having been traffic on this route all week caused by ram buyers. Officials of the Federal Road Safety Corps are present on the highway, ensuring free flow of traffic. They're also apprehending road defaulters as traffic builds up. The price for Salah ram has skyrocketed. and consumers are not happy about the situation.
Like before.
The difference is very clear. It's very clear. It's like times 3 of the price that we bought last year. That is all this RAM increase. The increment is like times 3. Because last year I was there this same day on the layer day. I bought 1 RAM here, 180,000. Now I went to go and price that same RAM. They did not collect 700. They did not collect 700,000. Everything is increased times 3.
The RAM this year, the RAM too much. You don't hedge the price. The one right here, you buy 400,000 naira. Only one, 400. So that license, now we buy 250. You now only one 400,000.
Sellers attribute the increase to high inflation of feeds, saying the economic hardship in the country has dampened the demand for this year's Eid celebration.
You know, last year, by this time around, we have more than 50 trailers there on ground. They never sell. But alhamdulillah, for this year, we sell. People come by plenty. But they don't do their best because the situation whereby we are in now in the country, no money for the country. And then people, they try. Every day, they will come by. Every day, since when start this business for layer time, 2 weeks back to this time around, all people, they are coming by.
So the price where you buy last year around the 300. This year, you can't get it with 300. That's why you go for the 600, double. Price of 300. This year, you're going to be the 600, double.
Why are they expensive this time?
Why they cost? Because we Nigerians, because our leaders cause that.
The Secretary of Ram Sellers Association at Kara Market says the border restriction on imports and exports from the Niger government has also affected the flow of ram stocks this year.
Because this year, Niger rams, they did not be able to come due to the president did not allow them to carry their rams come to this site. Only Nigeria rams, Chad, so that's the only rams that are here. Compared to last year, Niger, they are here, Nigeria, Cameroon, Chad, understand? So that means the scarcity of rams try to happen.
Eid-el-Adha, also known as the Festival of Sacrifice, is one of the 2 major holidays in the Islamic calendar. It celebrates the willingness of the Prophet Muhammad to offer his son as a sacrifice in obedience to God. But instead, God provides a ram for the sacrifice, a tradition that Muslims have now imbibed for the festive season.
Ghana's former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has been placed on Interpol's red notice list for allegedly using public office for personal gain. This move comes after Ghanaian prosecutors declared him a wanted person as well as a fugitive from justice over his alleged involvement in several corruption cases when he was in government. The Interpol says the red notice is not an arrest warrant, rather a request to police worldwide to detain him pending extradition. Mr. Ofori-Atta, who is said to be out of the country for medical reasons, is yet to make any comment on the allegations, but says he has been unlawfully treated. Mozambican President Daniel Chapo arrived in Malawi for a state visit aimed at deepening bilateral ties and expanding economic cooperation, marking 50 years of diplomatic relations between the 2 neighboring nations. During the business and diplomatic forum, Mr. Chapo called for a stronger cross-border collaboration, highlighting the importance of streamlined trade and open cooperation. Meanwhile, Malawian President Lazarus Chakwera describes the occasion as a golden visit, underscoring the strategic importance of Mr. Chapo's first official visit to Malawi. At the end of the meeting, the 2 leaders signed a series of bilateral agreements focusing on trade, energy, defense and tourism.
You know, Mozambique has got, they are near the ocean, which we don't have. So we're using Mozambique as a country and also Tanzania to import some of the raw materials in the country. So it's very important for us to have these relationships with our neighbors. And where you're having the president of the country coming with their business captains, it really, for them to come and sit down and discuss with us, it's really important for us.
Vamos facilitar o negócio.
Let's facilitate business
para que os nossos países cresçam.
So that our countries can flourish.
Is coming to Malawi, I think we will add value to trade. You know, many people would like to be trading with Mozambique and the other countries across, but the challenges are the borders which controls trade. So his coming and his presentation, I think will help to ease the problems which people go through when doing trade.
That's Network Africa this week. Thank you for watching. I'm Joke Rogers.